So we have a special guest in Lafayette today, 2 events for Josh Guillory for Congress, running in the 3rd District congressional race, and a big endorsement came in the last couple of weeks from Rudy Giuliani, also known as America's Mayor.
Yeah.
He joins us on the phone. Good morning. Are you in Lafayette? Are you en route? Where are you?
No, I'm here. I spent a nice Sunday here, relaxed, met with Josh, and went over everything that's going on in the campaign. So we love it, and we're ready to go.
Well, I won't even try to ask what type of food you've had. That's what we're known for here. We're also known for that great hospitality.
I had tremendous food. We went for a boat ride, saw a whole bunch of alligators. I frightened my partner. I told him the alligators were going to come on the boat and eat him because they like New York meat.
Wow, yeah, wow. Well, good. Well, we're excited to talk to you. Happy that you're here. One of the things I want to ask about, just off the top, why Louisiana? Why this race? Why Josh Guillory?
Well, I get involved in races where I think there's a chance to improve the situation for the Republican Party. I think Josh is the kind of person we want to encourage in politics, a military veteran, recent veteran, a guy who put himself through law school, has at a very early age won some very big cases, so he's a very capable lawyer, and has this great desire for public service. And I'd like to see somebody like that, whether it was Louisiana or New York or California or Florida. I like to see young people like that getting involved in the process. And I've known Jennifer for 11 years. She was the chairman of my campaign in Louisiana, and we have pretty much the same ideas on politics. So she told me about them, and then I had my partner Jake Mangus look into it, and he said this would be a good race for us to get involved in. So we did. We're only involved in about 4 others, so it isn't a big burden to do it. And then when I met him, I was absolutely convinced I was right. He's a really articulate guy, smart, has the same values that I have, and I just think he'll be a really outstanding public servant, and will be here at the beginning of his career.
Do you think it's something that Josh would be able to do? You think he'd be able to re-energize people in our district and bring more to Washington than the current representative has done for this area?
I do. I think that first of all, he lives here, which is a big improvement. I've never understood someone not living in the district they represent. I always think that's a vulnerability. I know this is a very Republican district, but gosh, Alabama's a very Republican state. Look what happened there. So I think he's a safer bet from the point of view of lives here. His wife is a native. He's been here 20 years. His law practice is here. His children are here. He's a young man with a lot of growth potential. I think this is the kind of thing that you want to see to your district. It's also the kind of thing that you want to see all over the country. We want people that are part of the community that emerge in politics, not people who come from outside.
Do you think that it is tougher to be a congressman today than even 10 years ago? I mean, I think about your background and everything that you did for our country, the way you were able to bring our country together. Is it much more difficult today, though, for someone in politics, in particular, in Congress?
I do. I think so. I think, first of all, I think people are aware of the members of Congress a lot more than they were. Mm-hmm. And I think the press, the opposition press, will focus on them and make small things into very big things. And I think it's tougher. Yeah. And I think the public expects more. That's probably good, because I think we have now a lot more younger, very active members of Congress who both can carry the weight in Washington, but also spend a lot of time in the district. It's a balance of 2 things. It's representing you in Washington and representing you here in Louisiana.
I've got to ask, because it's been in the news this weekend, the president has endorsed Clay Higgins, the incumbent in this race. Does that cause problem? I mean, you've been in relative lockstep with the president on a lot of his decisions. Does it cause issues back at home?
Yeah, we're dying to know.
Or in the office?
No. The president and I have been friends for 29, 30 years, because I'm very honored to be his chief lawyer now, private counsel to him. We've never talked about this particular thing. We never talked about, I'll talk about politics when he asks about it. He never asked about this. Probably had no idea that I had an interest. This would be a normal thing that he'd do. It's a normal reaction that if you're the president, you endorse the incumbents. I'm not even sure he would know that there's an opposition, and I'm sure he will be fully supportive of whichever Republican wins. That's the good thing about this race, and the reason that I don't feel bad about entering it. I feel like this is a pretty darn safe Republican district. Never take it for granted. You could always lose it if you really screw up. But right now that isn't the case, and I just think we're going to a better option. And once he's the nominee, I think the president will be right there.
Do you think Josh Guillory would do a better job of relating to more people across the district? We do know it is a conservative district, obviously, but there are also a lot of people in this district who aren't necessarily conservative, or maybe they'd consider themselves more moderates. Do you think Josh Guillory will do a better job of connecting to those constituents?
I think he'll connect in a different way, which is maybe better, because then you can connect to everybody. I think he'll connect by being a long-term resident of this district, and his wife being a native of this district. And his children, he's definitely going to grow up in this district. So it's part of him.
So he may have more, I was going to say, maybe more understanding.
His opposition doesn't live here, and therefore he's not here every day. When he's in the area, he's not in the restaurants, he's not using the schools. So Josh would have a real connection to everybody, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives. They'll relate to him as a guy from Louisiana and from the area, from Lafayette or the other communities in the district, as opposed to the congressman that has sort of swooped in, and maybe they agree with him on politics, but if they don't, then they feel like they're unrepresented.
Why is it, do you think, that it has become so political, Mr. Giuliani? I've been in the business a few years now, so I've seen a lot of changes back and forth with, not only political parties, but political philosophies. And as you mentioned early on, people are much more interested in their congressional officials than they ever were before, and people are taking much more of an interest in political issues. Is that social media? Is it because of fears that have grown across America? What do you think it is?
Probably all those things, right? I think social media has been good and bad, and one of the good things is it makes us much more aware of things immediately. So if a congressman makes a mistake, or he says something wrong, or he says something right that you agree with, you latch onto that right away. And I think in some ways it's getting a lot of young people more interested and involved, because it's perfectly attuned to it. And the president has led a lot of that by the tweeting that he does, which I know a lot of people get annoyed with, but a lot of people really love. I mean, some of his most important statements have come out on tweets, including, back at the beginning of the year, his support for the Iranian dissidents who were protesting all over Iran. Just a simple little word like, we support you, and we think we can understand why you want to overthrow this regime. So just a simple thing like that could lead to a revolution. It did in Russia.
What's your overall message?
With Ronald Reagan.
Hosting two events today. There's a luncheon and there's a dinner. What is your overall message to the voters of this area as they go to the polls? We're still talking about 6 months away, Mr. Giuliani. I mean, we are revved up really early here on this.
Well, you are. You know why? Because of the thing that has entered into it more and more, which is the money you need to get your message out. You could be the best candidate in the world. You can have the greatest message, and you could be running against the worst candidate in the world. And if you don't get your message out, the worst candidate's going to win. So you start this early because you have to, not because you want to. The real political part of this doesn't start until September and October into November, meaning that's when people start. Aside from the political partisans, that's when the people who are more neutral, when they start paying attention. But you got to have the money then to make a case to them. Otherwise, it doesn't work anymore. The day of door-to-door politics, except in the most local races, is kind of over, if not at most it plays a limited part in this.
What about the criticism, that candidates face nowadays because of social media, and just in general? It seems like, and it doesn't matter what side someone's on, it seems like candidates and then candidates who do become an elected official, they face so much criticism early on, and it's almost difficult to even get a message out without trolls on the internet and tough criticism in the media. Well, the president never even really got a chance. They were bombarding him.
The president should be a good example here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he puts up with more criticism on an instant basis than anybody. Now they're attacking his Sarah Hughes, and they're attacking his employees and the people who are public servants.
Yeah.
But what he does, he constantly. I can't say he ignores it, but he fights back against it. He does it. He has a message. He has a point of view. He has a thing he wants to accomplish, whether it's in economics or foreign policy, society, and he sticks with it. And he sees the criticism as it comes with the territory. In other words, if you're going to do bold things, if you're going to be a reformer, there's a whole establishment that's going to go against it. And he sees it maybe as a sign of his success, the more vehement they are. Mm-hmm. And I think young people have to realize you got to stand for something. There are going to be setbacks and there are going to be attacks, but they'll have to just make you firmer in analyzing what you're doing. And if you think it's right, do it.
Wow. Mayor Giuliani, what's next for you as we're wrapping up here? I know we got to wrap up, but what's next for you after today?
Oh, I think I have a pretty full week. I do some work in Brazil, law enforcement work, which is part of what my business is, security. Then I meet with a group of Iranians talking about what's going on inside Iran, where they're still killing people. And I'm so proud of the president walking away from that terrible Iranian deal. And then in between, and then I go back to being my job which takes up maybe half to 3/4 of my time, which is being the president's counsel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
and I love the direction of it because I think the Mueller probe is falling apart.
Mr. Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor. Wow.
Yeah, we're honored, sir. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for the time today. Have a good time in Lafayette. 2 events again, a luncheon today and a dinner tonight at Petroleum Club. Lots of really interesting insight. You kind of brought up his role in bringing people together, especially after 9/11. He was the mayor of New York when 9/11 happened. Obviously, as he kind of alluded to, he's been involved in a lot of cybersecurity and security consulting ever since then, and, of course, as the president's personal counsel. Appreciate the time. We'll be covering this story all day long. I'm sure we'll get some pictures. I don't know. Maybe he shows up at some Lafayette institution to have lunch or breakfast.
Right? Yeah.
Get that man some boudin.
I know.
I don't know if he'd be into that though.
Some boudin, some crackling though.
Acquired taste.
That'd be good.
Anyway,
delicious.
All right, it's 8:42. Great interview as always. We'll be back with more Acadiana's Morning News after this.